So you understand where I'm coming from with this, I gave up dairy for over a decade. I struggled with all the typical symptoms, the gas, the bloating, all the digestive issues, the acne and the skin issues. So I gave up dairy for over a decade. I switched to all the nut milks, the almond, the macadamia, the coconut milk. I switched to all of it and my symptoms improved. So I just labeled all dairy as problematic. I didn't think dairy was a good food for humans, but I was wrong. And that really changed in 2015 for me. So close to a decade ago, I've been doing raw dairy in my diet. And I didn't experience any of the negative health side effects that I did when I consumed conventional dairy, pasteurized milk, and homogenized milk. And many other individuals report this as well. When they switch to drinking raw dairy compared to pasteurized, homogenized dairy, they also don't experience the negative side effects that they do from typical dairy. And I say all that to say that the way that we have dairy today is completely different. It's done a complete 180 compared to how we've had dairy for nearly all of human history. I mean, only within the past 100 to 150 years have we completely flipped how dairy is processed, how dairy is sourced, and how dairy is consumed in the human diet. Dairy was always raw for as long as humans have consumed it. But only ever so recently we started pasteurizing it because of mid-1800s swill dairies and the terrible filthy conditions that the cows were kept in. It wasn't that the raw milk itself was dangerous by any means. It was the way that humans were raising the cows and the issues that that was presenting. And over the past 100 years or so, dairy got a pretty bad reputation because of the need to pasteurize it, because of what humans did to the dairy industry, trying to ship it across state lines, across the country, thousands of miles. It would go bad quickly, people would get sick, cows were raised in filthy conditions, and the milk would get pretty gross. So many people started experiencing a lot of issues from dairy because of the way that it was processed. But for all of time before that, humans were only consuming raw dairy and people didn't experience the issues like they do today. Dairy still isn't for everyone, and you might still not do well with raw dairy. In my experience, many people do better with raw dairy, raw cheese, raw butter, yogurts, and especially fermented kefirs, fermented milk. People do really well with that, but don't force it if you're somebody that doesn't do well with it. But with that being said, there are a host of incredible health benefits of consuming raw dairy that are backed by science. The first benefit is it's meant to be a nourishing food, so it's going to be packed full of virtually every nutrient that we need. And most of these nutrients, people are chronically deficient or severely low in. Raw dairy is full of potassium, vitamin B12, calcium, right, for strong bones, vitamin D, vitamin A, magnesium, zinc, most of the B vitamins, and omega-3s. It's also full of conjugated linoleic acid. This is CLA. This is a healthy type of fat that's been shown to reduce the risk of diabetes and heart disease. The second science-backed benefit of consuming raw dairy is that it's also a very bioavailable source of complete protein. This means it's very easily absorbed and it contains all the essential amino acids. But what does the science say? Well, some studies have found that higher consumption of milk and other milk products have been linked to greater whole body muscle mass and better physical performance in older adults. Several studies have even demonstrated that drinking milk after a workout can decrease muscle damage, promote muscle repair, increase strength, and even decrease muscle soreness. Now, the third benefit of consuming raw dairy should come at no surprise. It's been shown to lower the risk of osteoporosis and fractures in older adults. There have been countless studies showing that dairy lowers the risk of osteoporosis and fractures in older adults especially. Now, the fourth major benefit of consuming raw dairy is that it helps prevent weight gain. There was a single study including more than 18,000 middle-aged and elderly women that showed that eating more high-fat dairy, not low-fat, not that skim milk, but eating more high-fat dairy products was associated with less weight gain and a lower risk of obesity. This association is also supported by a host of randomized controlled trials from conjugated linoleic acid, CLA, and butyrate showing that consuming these high-fat dairy products boost weight loss. Not to mention that dairy is just a high protein food that's going to help satiate you and make you feel full for longer. Now, the last benefit of many more that I could talk about is that dairy is anti-inflammatory, or at the very least, it's neutral. It's definitely not inflammatory. And that's if you are somebody that is not allergic to the milk proteins. Because there was a review of 15 randomized controlled trials that found no pro-inflammatory effect of milk or other dairy product intake in healthy adults or in adults that were overweight, obese, had type 2 diabetes, or metabolic syndrome. If that's not enough, there was also a review of 8 randomized controlled trials that observed no effect of dairy intake on markers of inflammation in adults with overweight or obesity. And lastly, there was another review in children, ages 2 to 18, that found no evidence that consuming whole-fat dairy foods increased inflammatory molecules, namely TNF-alpha and interleukin-6. Now, with all of this information, the history of humans consuming dairy, and the science-backed benefits of dairy improving humans' health, how can you say that humans shouldn't consume dairy, especially raw dairy? Again, this is something that I've updated my beliefs on. I went 10 years thinking dairy wasn't a health food for humans, but after seeing the evidence, understanding the timeline, understanding that not all dairy is the same, and there's a major difference between raw dairy and pasteurized and homogenized dairy. Not all dairy comes from conventionally raised animals. Not all dairy supports big dairy in the dairy industry. I personally recommend sourcing your dairy from local farms right down the road where you can shake your farmer's hand, you can see the cow or cows that you're getting your milk from, and you know who you're supporting. There's a massive difference in sourcing local raw dairy or vat pasteurized dairy, which is low temp pasteurized dairy, and supporting big dairy who are really just in it for the profit. I think ever since the mid 1800s, where humans started grouping cows closer together, humans started living closer together in cities and major urban environments, and we started selling milk on a mass scale, that really ruined the reputation of dairy altogether. And now in modern day, with the advent of social media and things getting publicized more, and there being a lot of misinformation out there, all dairy has gotten lumped together as being problematic. But this is something that I've changed my views on over time. And again, raw dairy from local farms is definitely not the same as big dairy, because the way humans have consumed dairy throughout time was never like it is today. Today, you can go to the grocery store and grab a jug of milk off the store shelf, and that's a combination of hundreds of different cows probably. The way humans have always consumed dairy was you had a couple dairy cows, you had goats, you had local animals that you raised, and you saw exactly what was going into that process. That's the way dairy has always been a health food. It's something that our biology has come to expect. It's something that humans can gain a lot of nutrition from, as the science shows. And if there's one major takeaway from this, it's that not all dairy is the same. I appreciate you being here. If you like this content, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button below. Please send this video out to somebody that you know needs to see it most, and I'll talk to you next time.